And welcome to the Homeschool Ambassador. I'm Bahar Picarillo. I've got my coffee. We are starting this morning a little bit kind of disorganized, not so bad, but I have to film and record on two different places and make sure that people can watch later. So we're going to see how things go. Comments on Facebook are over there. I'm filming over here. We're going to wing it. Good morning. Hello, good. I'm glad you got here. There were some people that messaged me late last night and not everybody got the memo. So I want to make sure at least you got on. So good morning. Okay. So Facebook's here and good morning. And I'm filming here. So I'm trying to eyeball both. We'll see how things go. So if I'm not looking directly in your eyes, please know that I'm really talking to you, even if I'm looking all wibbly wobbly. Okay, technical term. All right, I've got tons of questions that I want to cover. I'm probably going to do this in two parts, okay? So one, I want to be able to break up the video for later because I'm probably going to put it on YouTube, but also I think Facebook will limit the amount of time that I can do a live. So I'm going to try and do at the 45-minute, 50-minute mark. If you hear a baby screaming, it's not really a baby, it's a cat who thinks he's baby and he acts more like a dog. So anyway, that's Macho. If you hear him screaming, it's not my fault. We're ignoring him and the door is closed. He likes to be with mommy. Okay, first things first. For those of you, Jennifer, you already know this because you know me, but as people join on, I want them to kind of know why they're listening to me. And when you have tons and tons of resources on Facebook these days and tons of groups for homeschooling, why would you listen to one person? Why would you listen to me? So for those of you who don't know, I've been homeschooling my kids, who are now 12 and 14, in Loudoun County for over 10 years. And from scratch. That's what I call from scratch, meaning they've never been in school before. When my son was a toddler, true story, I was watching the Duggar family. They're like the Christian family that has 19 kids. And now I watch the Bates because I think they're cool. But anyway, so that was the first sort of inkling that I had about homeschooling. And I got their book and I started researching. And back then, 10 plus years ago, there weren't, YouTube was still under 15 minutes and you couldn't find books on Amazon and Amazon at the library. So I would look at the library and I would look on Amazon and maybe you would find a couple books, but you couldn't find a whole lot of resources. There were state organizations, but I don't think I was even on Facebook then, right? So everything was very limited in terms of resources. So the last 10 years have really exploded, which is beneficial to homeschoolers, but at the same time, it can be overwhelming because now you have way too many resources. And so one of the things that I did, and if you know me and you know how I am in business, I'm a giver and I forget that I need to charge people because I do want to help people so much and I want to help them in a way that I needed the help at the time and I didn't get it. That's also one of the reasons why I'm a divorce recovery coach, because I want to help people who are going through it. And your lawyer or your therapist, they just don't do the same thing that I do. So in the same way, when it comes to homeschoolers, they don't do it the way I do it. And they don't explain things the way I explain things. And I put myself in your position and I know what it's like to have to deal with a messy life and have to deal with ill, relatives and have to deal with moving constantly, or how you are, you may be different from your kids in terms of, your socialization. Maybe you're an extrovert, they're introverted, or vice versa. How to do it on your own if you don't have support, because I've done it on my own. So lots of questions that we're going to cover today. And I always say, if you're working with me and you're my client, obviously, and I'll talk about the Homeschool 101 package at the end. But if you're my client, I always say I'm in your corner the entire school year. I'm there for you. When you have a question, you reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I will find it. But chances are I do, and you won't have 50 plus responses on a Facebook post to have to weed through. And a lot of times what they do is they tell you what worked for them. but nobody understands your family and your budget and your kids in the same way. And that's one of the things that I pull that information when we have a consultation, so I get to know what it is that you're looking for in terms of your educational choice and your homeschool journey. I'm not going to suggest a curriculum that's out of your budget. I'm not going to suggest that you might do XYZ kind of activity with your kids if I know that it's not feasible for you. Why? It's like the same thing people told me when I got divorced. They're giving me all sorts of well-meaning but useless advice, and that's not what we're here for. We're here for real advice that we can use. Good morning. Hello. We are starting our webinar, our Q&A this morning, and I was just kind of overviewing who I am and why you're listening to me. So we're just going to get started. I'm filming here, Facebook is here, and somewhere or another I'm going to get this on Instagram as well. So I had a lot of weirdos on Instagram, and so I had to lock that down. If you are not already following the Homeschool Ambassador on Instagram, I would love it if you would go and join there, because I'm going to have videos and things like that posted, and it's locked down. So just request to follow and I'll approve you later. Okay. All right. We're going to get started. Okay. Let's talk about the first big question: schooling versus education. This is a big topic. Okay. People are talking about schooling. Where are the kids going to go to school this school year? What happened last school year? And they're just looking for school options. They're just looking for somebody to teach their kid. That's not an education, okay? An education is the child learning. There are a lot of social issues going on right now that are making parents just, their minds explode. That's not education. That's not your core subjects. That's not your electives. That's not foreign language. That's all the fluff. That's all the nonsense that we're dealing with right now. That's not education, okay? So when you're thinking about your school choice, you're not thinking about your educational choice. Some people are saying, well, the public school, I'm not okay with that right now. Well, okay, I need a private school or I need a charter school. That means they're thinking about school. School has become a babysitter for some families. School has become the place you put your kid, and hopefully they'll fix your kid, and then you don't have to deal with it as a parent. That's not education. As homeschoolers, and I say this in a broad term, but not every homeschooler is a good parent. Not every homeschooler is cut out to be a homeschooler. But for the sake of, this discussion, we're just going to offer a blanket statement. Most homeschoolers are focused on the child's education and at the child's pace. So that means we don't want to beat the dead horse if the child has already mastered something. We don't want to give them busy work. It doesn't exist, right? I'm not going to make my kid do, 14 pages of, math equations, just even though I know he knows how to do it, just for the sake of practice, right? Maybe, okay, if he hasn't done it in a while, I might give him a worksheet for review, but I'm not going to beat the dead horse, right? Some subjects just aren't suited to that child. You don't have to cover every subject, right? But your child can flourish in the way that they want. So obviously we want to give them exposure to a variety of different subjects, but it's about education and them learning and having an interest in learning, because they're going to be learning the rest of their life. Kids who are, told you just need to get this done, you need to get this done, they hate school. They hate learning. And they don't often go and get an education, a higher education. And that doesn't mean college. That means they don't even want to go to trade school. They don't want to learn a craft, a skill that they can use if, God forbid, one day they lose, their regular job or whatever, to have something to fall back on. They don't do that anymore. A lot of parents are focused on sports right now. And that's this area, but I hear it from families all across the country. And by the way, I work with families all across the country. When it comes to local, county and state requirements, it's a little bit different, but the gist of it is the same. And I walk them through all of their state requirements as well. So it doesn't matter where they are. If you have friends or family who are on the fence, I can help them out. So I want you to think about what your priorities are when you're having this family discussion or you're speaking with your spouse. What is the priority? Is it education, or is it just a place to put the kids? And think about it long and hard, because if it's just about where to put the kids, you might have to, think about things a little bit differently going forward, because schooling is changing at warp speed. And those who are choosing private school are realizing that private school is squeezed and squeezed and squeezed to the point where they're doing a lot of the things that you don't like that are in the public school as well. And they don't really care that you are paying a tuition. They're still going to do what the majority of the parents are squawking in their ear about. And so they're going to bend. Charter schools, same thing. The schools have rules and regulations that homeschooling doesn't. Right? There's oversight because, again, they have administrative, people and employees and teachers and tons of kids that they have to worry about. So, they have to make decisions that are good for everybody. Whereas you as a homeschooling parent, you just have to worry about your kids, just your family, which is great. Okay. The next topic is online public school versus homeschooling. Okay. There's a lot of confusion. K through 12. We're in Virginia, so Virginia, virtual academy. There are a lot of words thrown around that kind of mean the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And parents are saying to me, Bahar, we homeschooled last year. It didn't go well. And then I find out what they used. And they used the public school programs that were online. That's not the same thing. That's not homeschooling. You don't have a choice there. You don't have a certain amount of flexibility. You don't have the option to pick and choose different curriculum. You don't have that. It is not homeschooling, right? Your kid is stuck, dealing with the schedule of the public school. If they don't have, if there's a teacher workday or whatever, I don't think there was class online. So it is not the same. So do not judge homeschooling when you've only known online public school. It's very, very different. Okay, so if you want the breakdown or you want to know what homeschooling can be like, you have to try it. Okay, the next topic or question is, it's kind of the same thing. So distance learning and hybrid versus homeschooling. And here's one of the issues that some people are having. They were on the fence about homeschooling and they go, I don't know, because they waited last year as well. And they go, Bahar, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I could do it. And they may open up schools again. So I want to be able to have a smooth transition for my kid back into the school system. So they waited last year. And then they saw that the school board didn't listen to the parents and they had hybrid and distance learning and everything. And so the goalpost kept moving and the kids ended up staying in that circus that was public school last year. And so the parents go, okay, well, now what? And I go, all right, well, just make it to the summer, because now, the kids are already in it. Make it to the summer and then have a different conversation with me. Now, yet again, those same parents are faced with school and they go, well, school's open. Okay, well, they have to wear the mask or they have to do this, that, and the other. Well, that's fine, as long as they can get in school. Okay. The school board has proven that they don't stick to their word. The superintendent may or may not stick to his word. They may or may not have a plan. You need to have a plan B. And that plan B has to be ready to go. Because I'm telling you, I think you'll be surprised this year. I don't know what the surprises are. I don't like to speak things into existence. But I'm just telling you, you need to have a plan B. Because I think you'll be surprised. Again. So, when it comes to homeschooling versus distance learning, if you want a repeat of the same old thing, then do the same thing. If you want something different, you have to choose a different way. That's just, the definition of crazy, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different outcome. Which reminds me, there are a lot of parents who are cherry picking their child's public school existence. I know, I've had relatives who have done it. I've had friends who have done it. If you are focused on cherry picking, well, I want the child to read this, but I don't like that book. I want them to, be dismissed at this time, but, because my kindergartner is too tired at the end of the day. I want the school bus driver to do XYZ for my kid. Who gave you the right to change everything according to your family? I grew up in the public school system and I'm a homeschool mom. I do not have any inclination at all that I expect the public school system to bend to my kids and my family. I don't think so, right? They're not going to do it. So I could, raise my fist in the air and I could, complain and I could email teachers and I could email the principal, or I could just get my kids out and do what I want to do with them. And they can read what I want them to read and they can learn what I want them to learn. And if I don't want, the social agendas or whatever that some people are, on both sides of the spectrum, right? I can teach my kid whatever I want. Whatever philosophies, whatever, personal beliefs of our family, that's all that they're going to get, right? And then we may see other families who choose to subscribe to a different, way of thinking. And then I teach my kids how to navigate all of that, right? So if you are trying to cherry pick your child's public school existence, or now you're switching to a charter school or a private school and you want to do the same thing, you need to have a reality check. They're not going to be able to do it. I had a relative who, her child was in kindergarten back when we still had school shootings. And she kept saying, I can't do it. I'm not organized. I'm not, this, I'm not that. And she had heard me talking about homeschooling for years. And I was like, okay, fine. You don't have to. I'm not going to twist your arm. I don't shove homeschooling down anybody's throat. In fact, there are some people that come and they talk to me about homeschooling. I'm like, I don't want you to homeschool your kids because I feel bad for your kids. You shouldn't homeschool, right? And so she got frustrated and her son was coming home every day, really nasty, really frustrated. It was a long kindergarten day and he wasn't ready for it. So she talked to the teacher, talked to the principal, and they agreed to release him at 1 o'clock every day. I'm like, talk about disruption to the class. And I'm like, how does that fly with the teacher? The one kid, well, why does so-and-so get to leave early every day? All the other kids want to leave too, but they're stuck in class. So she would pull him out every day. And then all of a sudden there was another school shooting in the news. And she had super, super anxiety. And she goes, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't send him. God forbid something happens, and I didn't make the switch. And I go, okay. So we got on the phone. I walked her through filing her notice of intent, which we'll talk about in a second. And she did it. Now, she didn't maintain her homeschool, journey for more than a few years. And she got plenty of kudos because she loved to post on Facebook and things like that. It wasn't really about education. It was like arts and crafts all the time. But the point is that she made the switch because she realized that no matter how much she wanted to cherry pick her child's public school existence, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to be ultimately what she wanted, and she wanted her kids to be safe. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. If you think that you want to bend and pick and mold your public school existence, it's not going to happen. And you're just going to frustrate yourself. The kids are going to be frustrated. You're going to be talking about it all year long instead of focusing on education. You're dealing with schooling versus education, and that's not what we want. By the way, we have some more people joining. Go back later and watch the beginning of this because I talk about myself and how I got to this point, but also I've covered some things before you've joined it. So go back and watch again. If you're not already requesting to join or like and follow the Homeschool Ambassador on Instagram, please do so. And also like and follow on Facebook, the Homeschool Ambassador. And I'm pretty sure everybody's in the same groups, but I just want to cover that. Okay. And eventually this will probably be on YouTube. So if you can't find a link, just send me a message. Okay. I mentioned notice of intent. Notice of intent. For those of you who do not know what notice of intent is, you'll see sometimes people will abbreviate NOI. That means notice of intent to homeschool. You are notifying the county and state that you intend to homeschool your child. What does that mean? That means if you don't enroll in the school, public, private, whatever, they don't know that you plan on homeschooling. So they think you just have a kid in a closet somewhere. They need to know that you plan on homeschooling. Now, Virginia is sort of moderate. It's middle of the road. There are some state requirements. It is not difficult to fulfill those requirements. We want to maintain our homeschool rights as a community as much as possible, which is another reason why I always say, work with me if you're a new homeschooler so you don't do things that jeopardize the rest of our homeschool existence. Sometimes new homeschoolers will, out of fear and anxiety, will provide too much information to the county, and that's not necessary. And we don't want them to think that, oh, they can up the ante because so-and-so, gave too much information. Well, Miss Johnson, gave us a full, 14-page curriculum. They don't need that. So send me a message and work with me so I can help you. So that's basically it. We don't want any truant officers calling you. We don't want you to have any phone calls. We don't want anybody coming to look for your kid. So you just have to make sure that you file your notice of intent. That's the beginning of the year. You're notifying the county. Now, we have a deadline for homeschooling. They want to know if you're going to homeschool by August 15th. Why? Because the county gets their funding and everything situated between August 15th and the end of September-ish. I don't know all the details. I just know that's the time. They want to know, you in or you out, right? They want to figure that out. You can still enroll your child in public school and pull them out at any time. You can still pay for private school and unenroll them at any time. I don't know how it depends on the private school, but you have that option in terms of a family in the county, right? Or in the state. So you can choose to put your kid in public school till December and then go, oh no, this isn't working, and pull your kid out. That's okay. You can file your notice of intent at any time. What you do is you file your notice of intent, you ask me and I'll walk you through it, and then you notify the county or your school, your child's school, and say, hey, we're going to homeschool. I filed my notice of intent. Here's a copy if they ask for it. And I'm unenrolling my child. If you need to get any transcripts or any records from them or whatever, great, do it. They should be able to provide it to you. And that's it. That's all you need to do because you've already filed your notice of intent. They get your kid out of their system or whatever, and that's it. Now, some people occasionally will come across somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about at the school office, or they get the runaround, or like right now, they're trying to hold on to as many parents as possible because they don't want to lose families. They're losing a ton already. Now, if you have any issue, first, send me a message, but we also have state organizations that will help you advocate for your family against the school or the county or the state, whatever the issue is. So there are resources to support homeschoolers, but you have to know what kind of resource and who to go to, okay? Occasionally, this doesn't happen too often in the homeschool community, but it does happen. Families will go through a divorce, and one parent wants homeschooling and the other parent doesn't, and that's one of the issues in their divorce. I know because I went through it. If that's the case, then people think, well, go to the legal homeschool association and they'll help you. They do not help in family law cases. That's not their deal. They focus on educational rights with the family against the state or the county or whatever. They'll advocate for you there. They don't meddle in divorce law. That's a whole messy thing. But because of that, that's one of the ways that I help my clients. So it doesn't happen that often, like I said, but occasionally families need that support, and I help their attorney. I'm not an attorney. I help their attorney with research and information that's necessary to help advocate for you. Okay? So I am your expert witness so that I can provide you information that's necessary. I did the same thing for my own attorney. He didn't know a whole lot. Again, this was several years ago. He didn't know a whole lot. Homeschooling is still a very, a minority decision. A lot of judges, it's kind of up in the air in terms of how they look at homeschooling. Most people would just go, sell your house, get the kids in public school, and we don't want to think about it. But we know that our kids are not a statistic. They're not just a number. And so if we are committed to homeschooling, that's their education. And so we're going to fight hard for it. So if you get to that point, God forbid, send me a message. Or if you know someone, again, doesn't matter what state, send me a message. I would love to be able to help them out.